Ji-Hoon watched the grainy CCTV footage, his hand gripped tight around a glass of whiskey. The amber liquid swirled in the crystal tumbler as he rewound the tape for the third time. His office was dark, just the glow of the monitors casting harsh shadows across his face. The city of Seoul sprawled below his penthouse office, lights glittering like a battlefield of stars. Beautiful, indifferent, dangerous. On the screen, his lead accountant, Elena Mitchell, slipped through the hallway at 11:47 p.m. Again, that oversized black coat wrapped around her small frame despite the suffocating July heat. The fifth time this week she'd accessed the private archives after hours. "So," Ji-Hoon growled, his voice low and lethal in the empty room, "the little mouse thinks she can steal from me." He set down the glass with controlled violence. The whiskey deserved better than to be thrown against the wall, even if that's what his rage demanded. He didn't just want her fired. Anyone could fire an employee. He wanted her to pay, to understand the cost of betrayal, to serve as an example to anyone else who thought they could infiltrate his organization, steal his secrets, and walk away unscathed. But Ji-Hoon was patient, strategic. Impulsive violence was for amateurs. He decided to wait. The syndicate's annual gala was in 2 weeks. Every major player in Seoul's underground would be there. Every ally, every rival, every person who needed to understand that crossing Park Ji-Hoon came with consequences. He wanted to catch her in the act, expose her in front of everyone. Let them all see what happened when you betrayed the Park organization. "Perfect," he murmured, taking another sip of whiskey. "Let the little mouse feel safe. Let her think she's gotten away with it, and then—" His smile was cold and predatory. "Then I spring the trap." He had no idea, couldn't possibly imagine, that in 2 weeks everything he thought he knew would be wrong. That the woman he thought was his enemy would become the most important person in his world. That catching her would mean losing his heart. But that revelation was still 14 days away. For now, Park Ji-Hoon watched the surveillance footage and planned his revenge. "Before we start, I need your help. My friend told me that stories about powerful men protecting vulnerable women are problematic, and nobody wants them anymore. But I think protection, real protection, chosen protection, the kind that costs something, still matters. If you agree, hit that subscribe button right now. Show her that these stories about strength choosing to shelter instead of harm still deserve to be told." Park Ji-Hoon was the most feared man in Seoul, not because he was the loudest, not because he was the most violent, not because he made grand displays of power. He was feared because he was precise, calculating, patient. When Ji-Hoon made a move, it was already too late to counter it. By the time you saw the trap, you were already caught. He'd built his empire on that reputation. The Park Syndicate controlled half of Seoul's underground economy: gambling, protection, luxury goods smuggling, high-end money laundering. Nothing violent, nothing that hurt civilians, but everything profitable. His father had started the organization. Ji-Hoon had perfected it, but perfection required constant vigilance. Trust was expensive. Betrayal was everywhere. And his empire's security was his weakness. 6 months ago, they discovered a mole in the financial division. Someone feeding information to the Choice Syndicate, their main rival. It had cost them millions before they'd caught him. Ji-Hoon had been paranoid ever since. So when he noticed his lead accountant exhibiting suspicious behavior, every instinct screamed danger. Elena Mitchell had been working for the organization for 8 months. American, 28 years old, brilliant with numbers. She'd been hired through a recruiter, vetted extensively, background check cleared. She'd quickly proven herself invaluable, the kind of accountant who could track money through 3 shell companies and 2 countries without breaking a sweat. Ji-Hoon had promoted her to lead accountant after 6 months. Given her access to sensitive financial records, trusted her, and now she was betraying him. The signs were obvious once he started looking. 2 months ago, Elena had started wearing oversized coats. In summer, in Seoul, where the temperature regularly hit 95 degrees and the humidity made breathing feel like drowning. She claimed she was always cold from the air conditioning, that her circulation was poor, that she just bought a new coat and wanted to get more use out of it. Lies, all lies. Then there were the late nights. Elena had always worked late, dedicated, thorough, never cutting corners. But lately she'd been staying until midnight, 1 or 2 a.m., coming in on weekends. When Ji-Hoon had checked the security logs, he discovered she was accessing the private archives. The locked room where they kept the most sensitive documents, client lists, transaction records, offshore account information, everything the Choi syndicate would pay millions to acquire. She's good, Ji-Hoon had admitted to his second-in-command, Min-ho, 2 weeks ago. I almost didn't catch it, but she's definitely stealing something. What's she hiding under the coat? Min-ho had asked. Documents, hard drives. Has to be, she's smuggling information out, probably copying files in the archives, hiding them under that ridiculous coat, taking them home to photograph or upload. Ji-Hoon had pulled up more surveillance footage. Look at this. Every time she leaves the building, she's clutching that coat closed. And look at the way she moves, careful, protective. Like she's carrying something precious. Could be a weapon, Min-ho had suggested. Could be planning something more direct. She's not the direct type. She's an accountant, methodical, patient. No, she's stealing information, building a case. Probably working for the Chois, gathering evidence to take us down or leverage us. What do you want to do? Ji-Hoon had considered his options. We wait. Let her think she's safe. The annual gala is in 2 weeks. If she's planning to make a move, it'll be then, when our guard is down, when everyone important is in one place. We'll catch her in the act, make an example. He'd reviewed the footage obsessively since then. Every late night, every suspicious glance. Every time Elena clutched that coat closed like it was protecting state secrets. Ji-Hoon cataloged it all, built his case, prepared his trap. He even arranged for Sang-min to make the public accusation. Sang-min was technically an ally, part of the Choi syndicate, but one of the more reasonable ones. He and Ji-Hoon had a working relationship, mutual respect built on mutual benefit. But Sang-min also loved drama, loved being the center of attention, loved the theater of power plays and public confrontations, perfect for what Ji-Hoon needed. I want you to accuse her at the gala, Ji-Hoon had told Sang-min 3 days ago. Public, loud, make it a scene. You're sure she's stealing? Sang-min had asked, positive. What's she taking? Financial records, client information, everything we need to keep quiet. Sang-min had smiled, the expression of a man who loved chaos. This'll be fun. The great Park Ji-Hoon betrayed by his own accountant. The Chois will love it. The Chois can enjoy it right up until I destroy whoever she's working for, Ji-Hoon had replied coldly. This isn't about embarrassment. It's about sending a message. No one steals from me. No one. Now 2 days before the gala, Ji-Hoon watched the latest footage. Elena at 1:47 a.m. entering the archives. That coat wrapped tight despite the summer heat. She looked around nervously, knowing she was being watched, not knowing he already had all the evidence he needed. She disappeared into the archives for 37 minutes. When she emerged, the coat was even tighter, the bulge under it more pronounced. Got you, Ji-Hoon murmured. He took one more sip of whiskey and turned off the monitors. 2 more days. Then the little mouse would learn what happened when you tried to steal from a lion. What Ji-Hoon didn't know, what he couldn't see from the surveillance footage, was what Elena was really doing in those archives, what she was really hiding under that coat, and why she was so terrified. Elena Mitchell was 6 months pregnant, and she was absolutely certain that if Park Ji-Hoon found out, she was dead. She'd been hiding it since the moment she'd realized. 3 months of oversized coats and careful positioning. 3 months of terror every time someone looked at her too long. 3 months of working herself to exhaustion to prove she was valuable enough to keep even when, if they discovered her secret, the father was long gone. Marcus. A mistake from before she'd moved to Seoul. He'd made it very clear when she'd told him about the pregnancy. Get rid of it or do it alone. She'd chosen alone. Coming to Seoul had been desperation. A recruiter had contacted her about a high-paying accounting position. She'd accepted without asking too many questions about the employer. She'd known within a week what Park Ji-Hoon really was. what his organization really did. But by then, she was 3 months pregnant, running out of money and out of options, so she'd stayed, worked hard, proved her worth, and hidden her pregnancy with increasing desperation as her body changed. The archives didn't have cameras. She discovered that 2 months ago. It was the only place in the entire building where she could take off that suffocating coat, let her swollen belly breathe, and rest for a few minutes without fear of being seen. She'd go there late at night when everyone else had left, sit in the quiet, rub her aching back, whisper promises to her unborn baby that they'd be okay, that she'd keep them safe, that she just needed to make it a few more months. She had no idea Ji-Hoon had been watching, had no idea he'd misinterpreted every careful movement, every nervous glance, every protective clutch of her coat, had no idea that in 2 days at the gala she was required to attend, her entire world would explode. All Elena knew was that she was exhausted, terrified, and running out of time. The baby was getting bigger. The coat was getting tighter. Hiding was getting harder. "Just hold on," she whispered to her belly that night, alone in her tiny apartment. "Just a little longer, 3 more months, then we'll figure out what to do, I promise." The baby kicked, strong, insistent, alive. Elena closed her eyes and tried not to cry. She'd been trying not to cry for 6 months. Let's talk about Elena for a second. She's working 16-hour days while 6 months pregnant because she's terrified of losing her job. How many women have lived this reality? Comment seen if you or someone you know has hidden a pregnancy at work because they were scared. And before we continue, share this video with someone who needs to know their story matters. Hit that share button. The gala was magnificent. The Grand Millennium Hotel's top-floor ballroom had been transformed into something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, flowers that probably cost more than Elena's monthly rent, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline, 300 people in formal wear. The city's underground elite. Powerful, dangerous, beautiful, Elena felt like an imposter. She'd found exactly one dress that fit, a black empire waist gown that she'd bought from a maternity store and altered to look more formal. It was the best she could do. The coat over it was black too, matching, hopefully not too suspicious even though it was summer and the ballroom was climate-controlled. She couldn't take the coat off. The dress hid the pregnancy better than her work clothes, but not well enough. Not in this crowd, not with these people watching. She'd arrived exactly on time, found the table assigned to the accounting department, sat in the back keeping her head down. Across the ballroom on the raised dais where the organization's leadership sat, Ji-Hoon watched her. He was in a tuxedo that probably cost more than her car, hair perfectly styled, face unreadable. He looked like a king surveying his kingdom. Elena tried not to look at him, tried to make herself invisible. It didn't work. At 8:47 p.m., after the dinner service but before the speeches, everything fell apart. Sang-min stood up from his table. Elena didn't know who he was, one of the many faces she'd seen at organization events but never spoken to. Tall, handsome in a sharp way, expensive suit, the kind of man who commanded attention. He walked to the center of the ballroom. The conversations around him quieted, people turned to watch, and then Sang-min pointed directly at Elena. "I'm sorry to interrupt the evening," he announced, his voice carrying across the ballroom with practiced projection. "But I have a serious accusation to make." Elena's blood went cold. "This woman," Sang-min continued, "has been stealing from Park Industries." The ballroom went completely silent. Elena felt every eye in the room turn to her, felt the weight of 300 stares, felt her heart trying to escape through her throat. "That's not," she started, but her voice was too weak, too terrified. "She's been seen sneaking around the private archives late at night," Sang-min pressed, walking toward her table. "Security footage shows her accessing restricted areas, and that coat," he gestured at her. "That ridiculous coat she insists on wearing even in summer. She's hiding something under there. I've seen the footage. There's a bulge, something she's smuggling out of the building." "No," Elena whispered, "I'm not stealing." "She's been seen sneaking around with a hidden bulge under her coat." Sang-min's voice rose. "She's stealing our ledgers, our client information, probably selling it to our rivals." The room erupted in whispers, gasps, accusations building on accusations. Elena stood on shaking legs, clutching her coat tight. Tears welled in her eyes because this was it. This was the moment she'd been dreading for 6 months. Not being fired, being accused, being exposed, being humiliated in front of everyone. "I haven't stolen anything," she managed, her voice breaking. "I would never." Then why the coat? Sang-min was standing right in front of her now, the entire ballroom watching. Why sneak around after hours? Why access the archives in the middle of the night? "I can explain." "Then explain here, now in front of everyone." Sang-min reached for the edge of her coat. "Show us what you're hiding." "Don't." Elena tried to pull away, but security guards were suddenly surrounding her table, blocking her exits, trapping her. The room was staring. Silent, waiting. Elena stood there, trembling, clutching her coat tight against her chest, tears streaming down her face now because there was no way out, no explanation that would make sense, no escape. She was caught and she was terrified. From across the ballroom, Ji-Hoon watched with cold satisfaction. This was going exactly as planned. Sang-min had performed perfectly. The accusation was public, the humiliation complete. Now Ji-Hoon would step in, demand she reveal what she was hiding. Expose her theft in front of everyone. Make an example that would echo through Seoul's underground for years. He stood, preparing to cross the ballroom and deliver the final blow. But something made him pause. The way Elena was crying. Not defiant tears. Not angry tears. Terrified tears. The way she was holding that coat. Not protective of stolen goods, protective of something else. The way she looked, small, alone, surrounded by guards with 300 people staring at her like she was a criminal. She looked broken. For the first time since discovering her suspicious behavior, Ji-Hoon felt doubt whisper through his certainty. What if he was wrong? He pulled out his phone, pulled up the surveillance system, found the archives footage from last night, the most recent recording. And this time, instead of just watching her enter and exit, he actually looked at what she was doing inside. The archives had been renovated 6 months ago. New shelving, new organization system, and new cameras. Cameras Ji-Hoon had forgotten about because he never checked that room. It was supposed to be secure, accessible only by senior staff. But the cameras were there, recording everything. Ji-Hoon pulled up last night's footage, and finally he saw the truth. If you're angry at Sang-min right now, comment villain. And if you're sitting here holding your breath waiting to see what Ji-Hoon sees, hit that like button. Because what's about to happen is going to change everything. Ji-Hoon stood frozen, phone in hand, watching footage he'd never bothered to check. The archives, last night, 1:47 a.m. Elena enters, looking around nervously. She closes the door behind her, walks to the back of the room where the old furniture is stored, chairs, a small table, filing cabinets they don't use anymore. And then she does something Ji-Hoon never expected. She unzips the coat and reveals a pregnancy bump. 6 months at least, pronounced, undeniable. Ji-Hoon's heart stops. On the phone screen, Elena sits heavily in one of the old chairs. Her hands go to her belly, protective, gentle. She winces, clearly in pain, rubs her swollen ankles, rolls her shoulders like they've been carrying weight for too long, and then she whispers to her stomach.
I love you
Ji-Hoon
so
turns up
much,
the
little one.
volume, hands shaking.
We'll meet you soon, my
"Just a few
sweet
more
baby.
months, little one." Elena's voice comes through, soft and exhausted. "We'll be safe soon. I promise. I know this is hard. I know I'm asking so much of you, staying quiet while Mama works, but we just need to make it a little longer." She's crying, silent tears running down her face. "I'm sorry I can't give you more," she continues. "I'm sorry you're being born into this mess. I'm sorry I have to hide you, but I promise I'm going to keep you safe. Whatever it takes, I'm going to make sure you have a good life." Ji-Hoon's throat is tight. He pulls up more footage, finds older recordings. The break room, 2 weeks ago, 3:15 a.m. Elena alone, sitting in the dim light, coat unzipped, belly visible. She's rubbing her ankles, wincing, drinking water, eating crackers from her purse, fighting nausea probably. "Just breathe," she tells herself. "You can do this. You've made it 6 months. You can make it 3 more, just don't let them see, don't let them know, work hard, be valuable, stay invisible. Another recording, 3 weeks ago. The bathroom, 2:47 a.m. Elena leaning against the wall, clearly in pain. Braxton Hicks contractions, maybe, practice contractions. She's breathing through them, one hand on her stomach, the other braced against the tile. Okay, she whispers. Okay, we're okay, just a contraction, nothing serious, we're fine, we're going to be fine. More footage, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks, 6, every recording the same story. Elena alone, working 16-hour days while 6 months pregnant, hiding in empty rooms to rest for a few minutes, talking to her baby, making promises, fighting through pain and exhaustion and fear. And Ji-Hoon understands with sudden horrifying clarity why she was so terrified. She wasn't stealing information. She was stealing moments, brief respites where she could stop pretending, where she could be pregnant without fear of being fired, or worse. Because in organizations like theirs, pregnant women were liabilities, weaknesses, security risks. Elena had been working herself to exhaustion because she believed, correctly, that if anyone found out, she'd be thrown away. And Ji-Hoon had just let Sang-min publicly humiliate her for it. His hands are shaking as he pulls out the remote for the ballroom screens. Across the room, Sang-min is still demanding Elena explain herself. The guards are closing in. The crowd is murmuring. Elena is crying harder now, clutching that coat like it's the only thing holding her together. Enough, Ji-Hoon says. His voice is quiet, but it cuts through the ballroom like a blade. Everyone turns to look at him. Ji-Hoon steps forward. The crowd parts. He walks with lethal purpose toward the center of the room. Sang-min, he says softly, dangerously, step away from her. Mr. Park, I was just. Step away. Sang-min backs up, hands raised. I was trying to help, exposing a thief. She's not a thief. Ji-Hoon pulls out the remote, points it at the giant screens flanking the ballroom. Let me show you what she actually is. The screens flicker to life, and everyone in the ballroom sees what Ji-Hoon just saw. The first clip, Elena in the break room late at night, unzipping her coat to reveal the pregnancy bump she'd been hiding, her hand on her stomach, wincing in pain, rubbing her swollen ankles. The audio plays crystal clear. Just a few more months, little one. We'll be safe soon. The ballroom is dead silent. The second clip, Elena at her desk at 2 a.m. working. That coat discarded on her chair, the pregnancy visible. She's crying silently while typing, one hand on her laptop keyboard, the other on her belly. The third clip, Elena in the archives last night. The moment Sang-min claimed she was stealing. But the footage shows her sitting in that old chair, coat open, talking to her baby. I'm going to keep you safe, her voice echoes through the speakers. Whatever it takes, I'm going to make sure you have a good life, even if it means working until I can't stand, hiding you, living scared every single day. I'll still protect you. The fourth clip plays, the most damning one. Elena 6 weeks ago, in the empty office, trying to button her work pants, failing. The button won't close over her growing belly. She sits on the floor and cries with the quiet, desperate exhaustion of someone who's been carrying everything alone for far too long. The screens go dark. The silence in the ballroom is absolute. 300 people, all of them understanding now. All of them seeing what Ji-Hoon had missed. Elena wasn't a spy. She was a terrified pregnant woman trying to survive, and they just publicly humiliated her for it. Ji-Hoon sets down the remote. His jaw is tight. His hands are clenched because he did this. He set this trap. He arranged this confrontation. He let Sang-min accuse her based on assumptions and paranoia. He was wrong, so completely, devastatingly wrong, and now he has to fix it. If you're crying right now, you're not alone. Comment heart if this reveal broke you. And listen, if you've ever been misunderstood, if you've ever had people assume the worst about you, if you've ever carried something alone because you were too afraid to ask for help, share this video. Hit that share button. This story needs to be heard. The room is in shock. Nobody moves. Nobody speaks. 300 powerful people rendered silent by surveillance footage of a pregnant woman crying alone in empty rooms. Elena stands frozen, tears streaming down her face. Her secret, the one she'd protected for 6 months, exposed to everyone. Her vulnerability, her fear, her desperate attempts to survive, all laid bare on giant screens for the city's underground elite to witness. She wants to disappear, to vanish, to stop existing. Ji-Hoon walks toward her. Elena flinches, expecting punishment, expecting to be fired, expecting the worst. But when Ji-Hoon reaches her, his eyes aren't filled with coldness. They're filled with something else, something fierce, something protective, something that looks almost like rage, but not at her. Sang-min, Ji-Hoon says without looking away from Elena. His voice is deadly quiet. You accused my employee of theft based on what? Paranoia, assumptions, the fact that she wore a coat in summer. I thought, Sang-min starts. You didn't think, you jumped to conclusions, you publicly humiliated a pregnant woman. Ji-Hoon's voice gets colder. You owe her an apology. Mr. Park, I was trying to protect the organization. Apologize now. Sang-min looks around the room, sees no support, no allies, just 300 people who have now seen the same footage Ji-Hoon did, who understand he was wrong. I apologize, Sang-min manages. I misunderstood the situation. It's not genuine, but it's something. Ji-Hoon dismisses him with a look, turns his full attention to Elena. She's still crying, still shaking, still clutching that coat even though everyone knows now, even though the secret is out. Ms. Mitchell, Ji-Hoon says gently, more gently than anyone in this room has ever heard him speak. I'm sorry, Elena whispers. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I wasn't stealing. I just needed. I know. He places a hand on her shoulder, steadying, grounding. I know what you needed. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. He turns to face the room. Every eye is on him, every ear listening. This is the moment that matters, the moment that will define how the rest of this plays out. Ji-Hoon makes his choice. She isn't a spy, he announces, his voice booming through the ballroom with absolute authority. And that bulge under her coat isn't a ledger. Isn't stolen documents. Isn't anything except exactly what you all just saw. He places his hand more firmly on Elena's shoulder, drawing her close, protective, possessive. She's carrying the next heir to this organization. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Elena is my fiancée, Ji-Hoon continues, and his voice carries the kind of certainty that makes lies sound like truth. We've been keeping our relationship private for obvious reasons, but given tonight's events, I see no reason to hide it anymore. More gasps, whispers exploding across the ballroom. Elena stares at him like he's lost his mind, opens her mouth to protest. He gives her shoulder a slight squeeze, a silent message, trust me. Anyone who has a problem with this can address it to me personally, Ji-Hoon says, his tone making it very clear that addressing it would be a terrible idea. Anyone who threatens her, approaches her inappropriately, or makes her uncomfortable in any way will answer to me. Anyone who so much as looks at her wrong. His eyes find Sang-min in the crowd. The threat is unmistakable. Will deeply regret it. The silence is deafening. Then from somewhere in the back someone starts clapping. Slow, deliberate, respectful, others join, building, until the entire ballroom is applauding. Because in their world this makes sense. Ji-Hoon Park, the most powerful man in Seoul's underground, publicly claiming a woman carrying his heir, protecting her, consolidating his succession. Showing strength through family, it's brilliant strategy, and no one except Elena knows it's a complete lie. Ji-Hoon doesn't acknowledge the applause, just keeps his hand on Elena's shoulder and guides her toward the exit. Come on, he says quietly. Let's get you out of here. She follows because she doesn't know what else to do, doesn't understand what just happened, doesn't know if she's been saved or condemned. They walk through the silent ballroom past 300 staring faces, past Sang-min who looks like he wants to disappear, past the security guards who are now standing at attention rather than surrounding her. The elevator doors close, it's just them. What did you just do? Elena whispers. Saved you, Ji-Hoon replies, his voice is tight, controlled. From them. From Sang-min. From anyone who might try to use your pregnancy against you or against me. By lying, by telling everyone I'm your fiancé. By giving you protection. As of right now, you're under my personal protection. No one in Seoul's underground will touch you. No one will threaten you. You and that baby are safe." "Why?" Her voice breaks. "Why would you do this for me?" Ji-Hoon is quiet for a long moment. The elevator descends. Seoul's lights blur past the glass walls. "Because I watched those tapes," he finally says. His voice is rough, raw, all of them. "I saw how hard you worked for a world that never gave you anything. I saw you crying alone in empty rooms because you were too terrified to ask for help. I saw you promising your baby you'd keep them safe, while you were barely keeping yourself standing." He looks at her and his eyes are fierce, honest. "I saw what I did to you, by creating an environment where you felt you had to hide, where asking for help seemed more dangerous than working yourself to exhaustion. I did that, and I'm going to fix it." "Ji-Hoon, you're not alone anymore," he interrupts. "You and that baby, you're mine to protect now. I claimed you in front of everyone. That's binding in our world. No one will dare touch you. But I'm not really your fiancé. This baby isn't really yours. You just lied to 300 people. I'll deal with the consequences. Right now, all that matters is that you're safe." The elevator doors open, the parking garage. Ji-Hoon's car waiting. He opens the door for her. Gentle, careful, "Get in," he says. "We need to talk, but not here." Elena gets in because her legs won't hold her anymore, because her mind is spinning, because everything she thought she knew just shattered. They drive through Seoul in silence. Finally, Elena asks, "Where are we going?" "My penthouse. You can't go back to your apartment. Word will have spread by now. Everyone in the organization knows you're pregnant. You're a target." "A target? You're supposedly carrying my heir. That makes you leverage. Someone might try to use you against me." He glances at her. "I won't let that happen." "So what? I'm moving in with you. For now, until we figure this out." "Figure what out?" "How to keep you safe. How to make this believable. How to handle the next 6 months." 6 months, until the baby is born. Elena's hand goes to her belly. The baby kicks strong and alive. "I don't understand any of this," she whispers. "Neither do I," Ji-Hoon admits. "But we're going to figure it out, together." The penthouse is enormous, luxurious, so far removed from Elena's tiny apartment that it might as well be another world. Ji-Hoon leads her inside, points out rooms, kitchen, living room, guest bedrooms. "You'll stay in the master suite," he says. "I'll take one of the guest rooms. We'll share common areas, but you'll have privacy." This is insane. This is necessary. Elena sinks onto the couch, exhaustion crashing over her. "I can't believe this is happening." Ji-Hoon sits across from her. Not too close, giving her space. "I owe you an apology," he says. "Several, actually. I'm sorry I suspected you. I'm sorry I set up that confrontation. I'm sorry I let Sang-min humiliate you in front of everyone. I was wrong about all of it. You thought I was stealing. I did, and I was so convinced I was right that I didn't bother to actually look at what you were doing. I just saw the coat, the late nights, the archives, and I jumped to conclusions." He runs a hand through his hair. "I created an environment where you were too afraid to tell me the truth. That's on me." Elena is quiet for a moment. "Why did you claim me? You could have just apologized, fired me, sent me away with severance. Would that have kept you safe?" "Maybe. Not in our world. The moment Sang-min accused you, the moment your pregnancy became public knowledge, you became vulnerable. Someone would have tried to use you, either against me or against my rivals." He leans forward. "I couldn't let that happen. So you made me your fake fiancé. I made you untouchable. No one touches what's mine, that's the rule. I'm not yours. For the next 6 months you are, publicly, professionally, for your safety." His expression is serious. "I know this isn't what you wanted, I know it's complicated. But Elena, it's the only way to keep you and that baby safe." She wants to argue, wants to say this is crazy, impossible, too much. But looking at Ji-Hoon, at the sincerity in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the way he's looking at her like she matters, Elena realizes something. He means it, every word. And for the first time in 6 months, she's not alone. She's terrified, confused, overwhelmed, but she's not alone. "Okay," she whispers. "Okay. I'll be your fake fiancé for 6 months, until the baby is born, and then we'll figure it out." Ji-Hoon nods slowly. "We'll figure it out." Neither of them knows that in 6 months they won't want to figure out an ending, that what starts as fake protection will become real love. But for now, it's enough that Elena isn't alone anymore. And Ji-Hoon has someone to protect. Let's talk about Ji-Hoon stepping up. Comment protection if you love this moment. And listen if you believe in people who choose to protect the vulnerable, who step up when they could walk away. Share this video. Hit that share button. This kind of love, protective love, chosen love, needs to be celebrated. The first week is strange. Elena moves into the penthouse with a single suitcase of belongings. Everything she owns fits in one bag. It's depressing and practical in equal measure. Ji-Hoon gives her the master suite, huge bed, walk-in closet, bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. He takes a guest room on the opposite end of the penthouse. They're polite, distant. Two strangers sharing space out of necessity, except for the small kindnesses. Fresh fruit appears in the kitchen every morning, pregnancy-safe options. Prenatal vitamins on the bathroom counter, a pregnancy pillow on her bed, books about newborn care stacked on the nightstand. Things Elena didn't ask for but desperately needs. "Thank you," she tells Ji-Hoon one morning over coffee. "For what?" "The books, the vitamins. Everything." He shrugs, uncomfortable with gratitude. "You're carrying my air. I need to make sure you're both healthy." "Right, for appearances." "For appearances," he agrees, but the way he says it sounds almost like a question. The second week, Ji-Hoon insists on attending her prenatal appointment. "You don't have to," Elena protests. "I can take a taxi." "We're engaged. It would look strange if I didn't go with you." He's already grabbing his keys. "Besides, I want to make sure you're getting proper care." The drive is quiet. The clinic is upscale, private, discreet. Ji-Hoon has clearly called ahead because they're ushered directly into an exam room. The doctor is kind, professional. She does the ultrasound while Ji-Hoon stands awkwardly by the door. "Everything looks healthy," the doctor says. "The baby is growing well. Do you want to know the sex?" Elena looks at Ji-Hoon. He looks back at her. This should be her moment, her choice. But somehow she wants to know what he thinks. "Yes," they say simultaneously. The doctor smiles. "It's a girl." Elena's breath catches. A girl, she's having a daughter. She doesn't realize she's crying until Ji-Hoon hands her a tissue, his expression soft. "Congratulations," he says quietly. And the way he says it, like he means it, like this baby is actually his, makes Elena's chest tight. The third week, everything shifts. Elena has a prenatal scare. Nothing serious, Braxton Hicks contractions, false labor, but it's terrifying. She wakes up at 3 a.m. to cramping, gasps. Can't breathe through the pain. "Ji-Hoon," she calls out scared. He's there in seconds, hair mussed from sleep, wearing only pajama pants, eyes alert despite the hour. "What's wrong?" "Something's wrong with the baby." He's moving before she finishes, calling his driver, supporting her with one arm, getting her to the hospital. The whole time his hand never leaves hers. "It's going to be okay," he keeps saying. "You're going to be okay. The baby's going to be okay." At the hospital, they determine it's false labor. The baby is fine, but Elena isn't fine. She sits in the hospital bed, shaking with leftover terror, crying with relief. "Hey," Ji-Hoon says, sitting beside her, taking her hand. "She's okay. You're both okay." "I was so scared," Elena sobs. "I know, but you don't have to be scared alone anymore. That's why I'm here." "This isn't real, Ji-Hoon. We're not really together. I shouldn't lean on you." "It's real enough." His voice is firm, certain. "For the next 6 months it's real enough, so lean on me, that's what I'm here for." She does, because she doesn't have the strength to hold herself up anymore. And Ji-Hoon holds her while she cries, his arms strong and steady and safe. The fourth week, something fundamental changes. They're having dinner together, it's become routine. Ji-Hoon cooks because he's actually good at it. They talk about nothing important, but it feels important somehow. How did you end up here? Elena asks. Running an organization, living this life. Ji-Hoon is quiet for a long moment. I inherited it. My father built everything. When he died, I took over. I was 23, terrified, but I couldn't show weakness, so I became what I needed to be. Do you ever wish you'd done something else? Every day. He looks at her. What about you? How does a brilliant accountant end up working for someone like me? I needed the money, Elena says honestly. I was pregnant, alone, running out of options. I couldn't afford to be picky about employers. You're not alone anymore. The words settle between them, heavy, meaningful. I'm scared, Elena admits, of this, of us, of wanting something that's supposed to be temporary. I'm scared too, Ji-Hoon says, and the honesty in his voice cracks something open in her chest. Of what? Of how much I care. This was supposed to be protection. A business arrangement. But Elena, he starts again. I watch you talk to your belly. I see you planning for this baby. I see how strong you are, how brave, and I. You what? I don't want this to be fake anymore. Elena's heart stops. Ji-Hoon. I'm not asking for anything, he says quickly. I know the arrangement, 6 months. Then you leave, I'll honor that. But I needed you to know when I protect you, when I care, when I make sure you're okay, that's not pretend. That's real. Elena can't breathe, can't think, because she feels it too. These past weeks haven't been business, they've been something else. I don't know what to do with this, she whispers. Neither do I, but we have time to figure it out, to see what this becomes. They sit in silence, the air between them charged with possibility. The baby kicks, strong, insistent. She's active tonight, Ji-Hoon observes. Always is when I'm emotional. Elena takes his hand, places it on her belly without thinking. Feel. The baby kicks directly into his palm. Ji-Hoon's expression transforms. Wonder, awe, something tender that makes Elena want to cry. Hello, little one, he murmurs. It's me. And Elena realizes he's been talking to her belly when he thinks she's asleep. Soft conversations where he tells the baby about his day, about soul, about the life she'll have. This man is falling in love with a baby that isn't even his, and Elena is falling in love with him. The 5th week, they have a conversation in Ji-Hoon's private office. It's late. Elena is tired. The baby is heavy, her back aches. Sit, Ji-Hoon orders gently. You've been on your feet too long. She sits, he kneels in front of her. Let me, he says, reaching for her shoes. You don't have to. I want to. He carefully removes her shoes. Elena's feet are swollen, aching, she winces. Ji-Hoon's hands are gentle, careful. He massages her feet with surprising skill. Where did you learn this? Elena asks. My mother had difficult pregnancies. My father used to do this for her. You're good at it. I have a good teacher. He looks up at her. Elena, I need to tell you something. Okay. I lied earlier when I said I'm not asking for anything. Her heart pounds. What are you asking for? A real chance, not fake, not temporary, real. His hands still on her feet, his eyes are honest, vulnerable. I know this started as protection. I know you agreed to 6 months, but I want more. I want to be your actual fiancé, your actual partner, this baby's actual father, not because of a contract, because I love you. Elena's breath catches. You love me. I love you. I love the way you're so strong even when you're terrified. I love the way you talk to your daughter. I love your laugh, your determination, the way you make me want to be better than I am. His voice is raw. I love you, Elena, and I love that baby, and I want to be part of your lives, really, not fake. Tears are streaming down Elena's face. I love you too, she whispers. I've been trying not to, trying to keep it business, but Ji-Hoon, I love you so much. He stands, pulls her gently to her feet, kisses her like she's precious. When they pull apart, she's smiling through tears. So what now, she asks. Now we make this real. We raise our daughter together. We build a life, a family. Not because we have to, because we want to. She's not biologically yours. I don't care. Ji-Hoon's voice is fierce. I was there when we found out she's a girl. I'm going to be there when she's born. I'm going to be there for her first steps, her first words, everything. Biology doesn't matter. Love does. And I already love her more than I thought possible. Elena is full-on sobbing now. We need to name her, she manages. What do you want to call her? Elena thinks. Hana, it means flower in Korean, right, after your mother. Ji-Hoon's eyes are bright. You do that. She's your daughter too, in every way that matters. I want her to have a name that honors your family. Hana, Ji-Hoon repeats softly. Our daughter. Our daughter, Elena agrees. They stand in his office, holding each other, making promises about a future that started as fake but became the realest thing either of them has ever known. 6 months later. The most feared man in Korea is currently on the floor of a nursery making ridiculous faces at a baby. Elena leans against the doorframe watching, her heart so full it might burst. Hana is 3 months old, born 2 months premature, tiny but fierce. She spent 4 weeks in the NICU with Ji-Hoon and Elena at her side every day. Now she's healthy, thriving, perfect. And she has her father completely wrapped around her tiny finger. You're going to spoil her, Elena says. Ji-Hoon scoops Hana up, cradling her against his chest. That's the plan. She's still small, preemie babies take time to catch up, but she's strong. Fighter's eyes, her mother's determination. Your mother called, Elena says. She wants to visit. Ji-Hoon's family had opinions about him marrying a black American accountant and claiming a baby that wasn't biologically his. The underground elite had more opinions. Ji-Hoon had made it very clear he didn't care about anyone's opinions. What did you tell her? That she's welcome to visit, but this is our family, our daughter. If she can't respect that, she can stay away. Ji-Hoon grins. I love when you're fierce. I learned from the best. They got married 2 months ago. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Nothing elaborate, just 2 people choosing each other and a baby girl who brought them together. I still can't believe this is my life, Elena says. 8 months ago I was alone, terrified, working 16-hour days just to survive. And now you have a husband who worships you and a daughter who owns him completely, Ji-Hoon finishes. Now I have a family, Elena corrects. A real one. Ji-Hoon shifts Hana to one arm, pulls Elena close with the other. You're not alone anymore, he says. You never will be again, I promise. I'm going to hold you to that. Please do. Hana makes a happy baby noise. The most feared man in Korea, awkwardly helping his wife put on her shoes because her feet are still swollen from pregnancy. Gentle, careful, completely in love. This is what protection looks like. This is what chosen family looks like. This is what real love looks like. Not perfect, not easy, but absolutely, completely real. And that's how the mafia boss thought his accountant was a spy, but found something that would change his life for good. A story about wrong assumptions, chosen protection, and fake arrangements becoming real families. If this story made you believe in love that protects, in families built on choice instead of blood, in second chances and showing up, hit that like button. Subscribe to Velvet Shadows for more stories about complicated people finding their way to love. Share this with someone who needs to believe that sometimes the scariest moments lead to the most beautiful endings. Hit that share button. Next week, a ruthless heir who sacrificed his marriage to save his family's legacy watches everything collapse anyway, until the one woman he cast aside returns with the power to rebuild it all. Forced to work side by side, old wounds reopen, buried love resurfaces, and one impossible choice could cost them the company or each other. Redemption, second chances, and a fight for both legacy and love. You won't want to miss what happens next. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing these stories matter. I'll see you next week.